Well, Matt's plugging along. How's the auger doing?
Well, it does good. The ground's absolutely a rock up here. I mean, of course, I knew that. It's just hard. You gotta go slow, and then it wants to grab it and take it away from you, and you gotta go slow with it. I think we're going to take those tubes back. I'm not going to use those. Ain't as hard as this ground is, them things ain't needed to begin with.
Yeah.
I just thought it might make it easier, but I don't know. I've used them in the past, but they really, unless you're out of the ground with them, ain't a whole lot of use for the thing as far as I'm concerned. Now, there might be some code on it or whatever, but since we don't have to follow the code on this, then I ain't going to. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it.
Well, you knew you was going to adjust as you went.
Oh yeah, that's the way it always goes.
So, and we can take them back, get the money back.
Yep.
It is awful hard, isn't it?
The ground?
It's just like drilling in bedrock about it.
You can see that up there. It's just that far under the dirt is just, it's like sand rock. But that upper side of this where I started is back in close to the original ground, and it's just pure rock. This down here's more fill, and it's a little easier. I wanted to get those done first, the hard ones.
On to the next step. Matt's got him a little, what do you call this, station set up here with the water and the concrete.
Yeah. Kind of red neat. But it works.
So what do you think?
I'm glad at least that much is done.
Amazing how they're already firming up so fast.
It's quite warm today. Sunshiny.
Sunshine
come out here and
helps.
there'll be little cat prints in it.
Maybe cat prints in it. Matt's cleaning up the wheelbarrow where he had the concrete in it. There's a little narrow flower bed over here. It'll be beside the shed. I used to keep it really nice and neat, and I had mostly daylilies and daffodils and irises in it. Over the years, I've totally deserted it and just forgot about it. But you can see there's still stuff growing in it. Those are daffodils. There's one of the daylilies. So Matt thinks he's gonna put a lean-to kind of shed on this side off of the big shed, make a little extra space. So all this would be covered up with that, but it'll be covered up anyway. So now I have to decide, do I want to get those flowers out and put them somewhere or just discard them? I really can't discard them. I know I'm gonna come over here and get them out. I just got to figure out where I can put them. There's some irises right there trying to grow out from under that log that Matt's got laying there. Tired?
I thought we quit drinking wine years ago.
We never did drink wine. This is tomato juice.
Looks like wine.
I forgot about our tomato juice that I canned because I don't ever make just juice.
When you smell it.
Oh, it's so good. I'm kind of glad I forgot about it because now I've got to really enjoy it, and it's almost gone. I've almost drunk it, and I've drunk most of it. Ain't that good?
I think that's by design.
No, it
Because
wasn't.
I didn't know about it, and you got 3/4 through all the jars, and it said, "Look, I found some tomato juice. Would you like some?"
That's not true. I shared with you the first time I opened a jar. Isn't that good, though?
Gosh, yeah, it's good.
It is so good. It's all I've wanted to drink since I found it.
Dip a little light bread in that, and it'd be like a mater sandwich.
Yeah.
It'd be good.
I've been eating it with, or drinking it with corn chips, and it's like salsa almost.
Yeah, boy, that's good.
It's so good. Just tomatoes grown right over there, and a little bit of salt, and that's it.
That is extra good.
I know. We're gonna have to grow more tomatoes.
We're about full with our growing. As far as getting any more, where are you gonna do it?
I have to go up, like build a level garden up. Build me a second story, Matt.
Yeah, I'll be doing real good if I can get that shed built.
Well, you made good progress today.
Yeah.
Got the holes done and got the concrete poured.
Yeah.
Kind of adjusting as you go. Figure out what you knew you would. That's how you always do stuff.
Yeah, I get started thinking I'm going to do it one way, and then when I get started, I see a better way or an easier way or something that'll make it much simpler, and I'll just switch gears a little bit.
Yeah, that's good.
That might
That's
not be
good.
the right way, but that's the way I've always done
That's
it.
good. And if you missed the video where we talked about the codes, in some places, in some situations, of course, if we were building a house, you can't do that. It has to be for code. But we, of course, first thing we did was call our local building inspection code office. What do you call it?
Code enforcement.
Code enforcement, and we don't have to because of it's not going to be, nobody's going to be living in it. In other words, it's going to be for
We
basically. Well, yeah, we hope.
I may end up in it if you run me off. I may
You're
have
not
to go out
going
there
to.
and
I
live
thought
in
you meant like somebody might move in it without us knowing or
it. Well, that's
something.
possible too.
It would probably be some cats living in it, maybe some rats, something like that. But there'll be no people.
I guarantee you there'd be a bunch of them little red waspers living in it. And
Yeah.
I'll get eat up, I know.
A lot of waspers, probably a few hornets and some rats, but maybe not rats because maybe Binks will keep them. He keeps them at bay now. He's ferocious, so
Yeah, he's a little fierce. I'm a little scared of him sometimes.
he's ferocious. So he'll like being able to hunt stuff in it. He'll keep it.
That's where he hunts out there all the time anyway.
Yeah.
Now his prey will have a place that thinks it's hid, and He'll
They
have it
won't.
figured out.
Yeah, they won't. So how long will it take that concrete to cure?
It'll be dry tomorrow.
Just because it's so warm, or is that the nature of
Yeah,
that stuff?
and it'll dry. I mean, I don't know about it being fully cured, but it'd be dry enough by tomorrow to do what we're gonna do with it.
Matt's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm smelling it. He said, why? I said, because it reminds me of being a little girl. When I was little, Pat built in our house, and then my uncle's house down the road, and other house places that I was with him on where he was building the house, and they were always, it seemed like somebody was always, I guess, to do the blocks and stuff, always mixing concrete.
Mm-hmm.
You can get those, what do you call them, mixers that turn?
Yeah, just a concrete mixer.
Yeah, but for those, no more than Matt was doing, we wouldn't want to rent one just for that. It was, wouldn't take long. Now, of course, if you were doing a basement or something, you get the concrete truck to bring it. But
I borrowed a mixer when we laid these blocks on the house. I think it was Keith Miller's.
yeah,
And I brought it up here and kept it till we got the blocks laid, and then took it back to him. Now, something like that, you'd want a mixer.
Have something, yeah.
No more than that was. I mean, it didn't take an hour to do all them.
Yeah. Matt was telling me while we were doing them, or he was doing it, I was just walking back and forth talking to him, but about you remember the first house you and Daddy built, not our house, but the first one you built to sell.
Mm-hmm.
What was you
Yeah,
tell
we,
it? Yeah.
Of course, we was trying to save money, of course, and we borrowed money to build the house. So we was trying to make the best use of every penny of that so we didn't go over, and the less you got in it, the more you can make on it, So we literally dug the footings, the whole house foundation footings with a shovel, and then poured them just the way I was doing out there today, mixing it in the concrete and dumping it in there and troweling it out, the whole house. We did 2 of them that way. And that's a whole lot of work. And they were on, they weren't steep, but they were not level. So we had to, you'd have to go back on one part of it. You'd just be getting deeper in the ground with your footer, so you'd have to step up. But you'd have to step up the width of a block and the length of a block. You'd have to do a lot of measuring to get that figured out. And then start digging again just at a higher level till it got back in the ground too deep, and then you went up another step. And that's pretty wild. And then you had to figure high side and low side to make sure your blocks come out evenly.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't have
Too
more
complicated
courses
for
on
me.
one side than you could the other.
Right. Too complicated for me.
I'd have to go back and study that to remember how to do that.
Now that's impressive, but even if you were a young man like Matt was, but what's really impressive is that Daddy was in his 60s?
Yeah, he would have been.
And I know he didn't just stand there and watch you shovel.
Gosh, no.
He was right in there doing it too.
Yeah.
So
Up until a point when we were working, 4 or 5 years into it is when he began to slow down some. Up until that point, he did as much or more work than I did, and I was 30. Mm-hmm. Prime of your life, supposedly, physically. And he was somewhat over twice my age, and he'd work you down.
he'd work, Matt to tell me, your daddy worked circles around me every day.
That's a fact.
And raring to go the next day.
But he'd do it, he was pretty smart about it as far as, that's where I picked up a whole lot of backing up and looking at something, and while I'm doing it and finding another way and an easier way, that's where I got it from. I mean, there ain't no need in just bowing your head and just making it hard all the time and don't stop and think and try to find a better way. He's the one taught me that. Yeah. And I do that all the time. Everything I do.
He didn't teach me that. Because sometimes I'm just doing whatever it is, going at it like fighting fire, and I think there might be an easier way to do this, but I'm like, well, I'm already started, so I just got to do it this way. So I should have learned that from him.
Well, he really didn't set out to teach me that. I just caught on to it.
But that's how he did it.
And after a time or two of him doing it, I thought, I know that's what's going on here, so that's smart. So I want to be smart too.
Yeah. What do they say? Work smarter, not harder, or something. So I a lot of times work harder. just because I don't want to stop and figure it out. I'm just like, well, I'll just do it. I've already started it this way.
Now, there's times he wanted to. He didn't want to stop what he, just like you. He didn't want to stop what he was doing because you had to regroup or go get something else, and he didn't want to leave the job, and we'd have to just make do with what we had.
Yeah.
And that's all right too. I mean, I ain't nothing wrong with it, but a lot of days was that way. We'd have to totally change our plans because of what material we had, you know, to get to the same end.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, what little dab I know about any of this building stuff, I learned from him.
And he learned it from, he worked in, before him and Granny met, before he was out of the service, and then, I mean, before he went to service, before he was drafted, and then afterwards a little bit too, he worked with one of his uncles, my great uncle Frank, in Ohio and in California, like with a big builder, where maybe they were doing a big subdivision or whatever, and they were just doing house after house after house after house. And then once he was out of the service, and then after a few years or whatever, when him and Granny got married, he went for the GI Bill. He went just to our local community college. But back then they offered building like trades, so they offered electrician, electricity, whatever, and block mason, and and framing. They offered all those trades. So he went through that, and got paid to do it with the GI Bill, and it was paid for and all that. And then he learned everything he learned. He just turned around and built his and Mama's house, our house that I grew up in. I was about 5, I guess, when we moved in there, maybe 4. And then after that, he went on to build many houses, helping people like his brother and other people in our community. And he was the main person over our church. And then years and years later, him and Matt built spec houses to sell. So.
Yeah, the first house building I ever had anything to do with was this house.
Yeah.
I mean, I've built not much of dog lots and dog boxes and stuff for cane dogs and stuff. That's a little bit different than house building.
He also built, I said, went from his brothers to all those others, but also he built Kim and Steve's house before he built this one. They had already had their house, the one that Austin and Corey lives in now. So Pat built that too. And then in later years, Matt actually built part of it because they built an addition on, so he worked on that part.
Yeah, we put 2 bedrooms and a big full bath on it. Years later. I mean, I don't know exactly when. It's been over 20 years ago, I guess. Girls were little.
Yeah, they were little. Probably, I don't know how old they were, 6, 7, something like that.
I don't remember.
I don't remember for sure.
I remember they was whatever age they was. Since we were working down there, we was in earshot where I could hear you come on the porch and say, "Holler, Matt, get up here and do something with your daughter." And I'd have to take my tool belt off and walk up through the woods and come up here and figure out what was the problem.
And let me guess, in those days it was mostly Corey.
It was her.
Yeah, it was always Corey in those days. She got it all out of her system though.
Yeah.
And then Katie took over and never did.
Katie took over and she still got it.
One time Matt was down there though, and I had to yell at him because this was in the days we didn't have cell phones, so. I yelled at him and asked him to come up here and look at Corey because she had been sick. She had strep throat, and I took her to the doctor. I had Alex with us too, I think, that day, didn't I? A little boy that I kept. And we got her antibiotic and all that and come home, and she was kind of playing around. And I don't know what I was doing, but she said, Mama kept telling me something about her lips. I said, your lips are fine, Corey, just whatever. Maybe I was doing something with Alex. I don't know, but I never did look at her. And she just kept on and on and on. And then finally I looked at her and her lips were just swelled really big. She'd had an allergic reaction. So then my first thought was, oh my Lord, what if she's swelling on the inside? What if it's her tongue or her, her throat or her airways or something? So I yelled at you and made you come up here. Do you remember that?
Just vaguely.
And of course I just called the doctor though, called back down there, and they said, she's had allergic reaction, bring her back down here. Don't panic, it's okay, she's not swelling on the inside, but bring her back down here and let us look at her. And so I did, and all they did was, after they examined her, was give her Benadryl and change her antibiotic to something else. But yeah, she kept saying, Mama, I kept saying, you're fine, Corey, you're fine, but I never did actually look at her until I did, and I was like, oh my goodness. She's like, I told you.
I can remember there was 2 or 3 other times of similar circumstances. But that's I don't know how it is with you, but that's an absolute pure horror to me.
Yeah, it's scary. I was
I
scared.
mean, ain't nothing scares me really.
Except
But
about your kids or
something
grandkids.
like that, or
yeah.
see them in distress. That's because if it's something medical, you can't do nothing about that yourself, really.
No, right.
And I don't like not being able to fix something.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, for them or y'all or whatever, and you can't fix that, and that's just a horrible thing to me.
Yeah.
Hate that.
I was scared, but then once I called and they told me she's not gonna, it's fine. If she was gonna have some kind of that kind of reaction, it would have already happened.
Right.
So, but bring her back and we'll need to examine her and then we'll change the medication and then they also give her. I don't remember if they give her. I guess just they let her drink Benadryl. I have no memories of that, but anyway, that was when you was down there working.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the nice jobs when you just could walk home to eat dinner, right?
Yeah, and there was another time we were down the road 3 or 4 miles working, and you called, and I had a cell phone then. That was
The bag phone.
no. That was one of the very first. The thing that you pull the antenna up on.
Yeah,
You remember that?
Yeah.
It was
a big, like a walkie-talkie or
just
something
about it.
almost. Yeah.
I answered the phone, and you said something to the effect, "Get home now," and then hung up. And of course, I thought, my God, what's happened? I throwed everything down, jumped in the truck, and come home and come in. And one of the girls, I think, had dropped something down the return air intake, or the return air grill in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I come in just heart racing, adrenaline, just to hear, because I thought something was wrong with one of the kids, and that's all it was. And then I got mad.
I thought, no, I don't even remember it, but I must have thought that it was going to like tear up the air conditioner.
I guess.
Yeah.
But
No,
I mean,
don't
even if it
remember
did, if it just blowed it all to pieces, I wouldn't care. I mean, that scared me terribly.
I don't remember that at all.
And then I got mad because of it. I don't know. You probably don't.
I don't
You ought to
remember none
remember
of it.
that.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Well, I apologize for my frantic whatever it was. I probably thought it was like fell right into the motor of the air conditioning.
What it did was it fell all the way down to the basement floor, and it was just inside
The
where
return.
where the return air duct plumbs into the actual unit and begins to pull the air back the other way. I took a knife and cut a hole in the side of that and reached in there and got it, and then patched the hole back, and then that was fixed.
I have no memory of that
But-
whatsoever. I've blocked that one out.
No, yeah, I went all the way back to work just shaking because it's scared.
I'm sorry. Very unthoughtful of me.
Oh, it ain't that it's unthoughtful. It's
Oh,
just,
it was, but I probably thought that it, like in my mind, that when it dropped down in there, that it was just going to destroy the air conditioning, and then you wouldn't have any, and heat bothered you so bad and all that.
Yeah.
So see, I was trying to protect you.
Okay. All right, so that makes it all right then.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? I was probably just a frustrated mama.
Probably.
Probably was. Yeah. Those were the days. They go by so fast.
Golly. Yeah.
Seems like it ought to still be like that. Instead, we're grandparents.
Yeah, it's about to start over.
The worry.
Yeah, the worry.
You
and
already worry.
the worry and just everything that we did, but raising the girls, it's starting over again.
Yeah, but it ain't squarely on our shoulders this time, so
Yeah.
it's a little bit of relief. That's what people always told me, was like, that's what's the best thing about being a grandparent. You love them just as much. You won't even believe how much you love them, but then they're not your responsibility. I mean, they are kinda, you worry about them, and of course if you're keeping them, they're your responsibility, but I mean, it's not that sole responsibility on your shoulders. I'm really excited about the shed, of course, that we finally started, made progress, but gosh, we gotta get started on the garden too. I can't believe time. I ain't even planted our tomatoes.
Better get on that.
I know, I gotta get on that. We ain't got our potatoes in the ground yet, which we did buy the seed potatoes, so we've got them. We just need to get them planted.
Yeah, we've got a little time on the potatoes still. I mean, it's according to who you ask and who you talk to. Some people say, it's all destroyed if you ain't got it in the ground by this date. And that, that
Well,
varies
yeah.
from location to location.
All right. Last year we were much later and we still had potatoes. Not down there, the ones didn't do as good as the ones
Right,
up here, but also we had a very dry year. But a lot of people say, whether it's their potatoes or whatever that they plant on Good Friday, as a lot of people, say that. But I was telling Granny that we need to get our seed potatoes or something the other day, and she told me, she said, "Oh, I used to always have to go get them for Mama and Papa." That was Pap's mother and father. And I said, "Oh, really? Did you?" And she said, "Every year they'd send me." And I said, "Well, where'd they send you?" And she said, "Well, to Wayne's down there, Wayne's feed store. I have to go down there and get them." And she said, "Yeah, Papa, he always had to have them, and he planted them on St. Patrick's Day. He always wanted to plant his potatoes on St. Patrick's Day." So I know a lot of you people have told me that you had people in your family that planted their potatoes on St. Patrick's Day. So we could try that.
When is that this year?
It's next week, but I think I have other stuff to do that day. But maybe we could squeeze it in. Now that the time's changed, we could do it like how we used to have to do after work one day when we got off work. I remember Daddy would try, like on a day like that, he'd try to get off, maybe go in early and get off maybe 2:30 or 3:30 when I was young, and then he'd come home and then we'd all go to the garden. Straight if we got out of school or whatever, then he'd already be there, already getting everything ready, whether we was planting potatoes or what we was doing.
Good times.
Yeah, good times.
Might not necessarily thought it was at that moment, but it sure, looking back, it is.
Right. We used to make Corey and Katie, they had to help us, that was just part of their chores when in the summer when we were working in the gardens, but like down in Pap's garden, and it was our garden too, but we just called it Pap's. But they'd be down there on like Saturday morning or something helping us weed the corn or do something, and they'd just complain and complain, like kids do. But I told them, I said, someday you'll be so thankful that you helped Pap in his garden. You'll just treasure these times. You really will. And of course they like, meh.
Now they do.
And now they do. They say that's some of their best memories, is being down there with all of us, in the garden, that fellowship, that camaraderie. It's really special. It's special anytime, anywhere you're at, but I think if you're a family, and you can I've felt that at work too, on a job at certain places too. If you're all in it together and you really make a good showing, as Pap would say, or get something accomplished, and then you sit together and kind of fellowship and rest, that's a really great feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote about that on the Blind Pig last week, and I said if I could bottle it and sell it, that joyful kind of satisfaction of a job well done, but a job in connection to other people, especially if it's people you love, that I'd be very, very rich. But then I said, well, I'm rich already though by, from having experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
It is something really
It
special. Many hands make light work. There's all kinds of those old sayings like that. That's one I like, because you can just be dreading something, and if somebody pitches in to help you, just before you know it, it's over.
Yeah.
Even something as simple as a few weeks back, I was helping Granny work up the rest of her apples from last year. She'd had them stored in the refrigerator and been eating on them and making pies and stuff. But she said, I want to just work the rest of them up and make applesauce or whatever. And she didn't have that many. It's just 2 big bowls full. And so she had a bowl and I had a bowl, and I peeled, and quartered mine up, and she did hers. And then she couldn't believe when we got it done. She said, well, that just went so fast. And I said, well, it's because both of us was working. Both of us was doing it.
Yep.
So even something that simple, having somebody pitch in to help you really, really helps. And even like, back then when we were making the girls help us, they certainly couldn't do as much work or do as good a job either as we could or Pap could. But they can do every little bit, Every little bit helps, Every little weed they pulled was one we didn't have to pull.
And too, it wasn't really about what they could get done.
No,
either.
it's just teaching them,
Teaching them to have a work ethic, and teaching them where their food comes from and all that, and that's now they know.
I would put, we kept Alex for so long, from when he was 6 weeks old, or 2 weeks old. 2 weeks old first time I kept him till he went to school. But I would put them and Alex every spring like this when Matt would till up here. I would put them out there, and he loved it because to throw the rocks out of the garden, so he got to throw rocks.
Yeah, he liked it.
Katie and Corey, not so much, but they did it. But I'd put them out there to throwing the rocks. So Yeah, every little bit helps, and it does help them and teach them to do stuff. And especially with the garden stuff, me and Matt wanted them to know where their good food come from.
Right.
You know, what kind of labor went into it, but also just the process. And we're always, especially, looking for ways to pass on our tradition, and that's how you do it, is involve them. So yeah, they complained a lot, but they appreciate it today.
They do.
And I hope the little grandsons will be the same way. I can't wait till they're big enough to throw a rock or whatever.
And then the planting food is I look at it like it's that's an ancient practice, and doing that even today, that gives you a connection to something that far back. Many years.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's really cool, and that's a whole lot of why I like to do it, just because it's such an old practice. Not near as many people now do it as they once did, but I'm glad that we do, and I like to take part in that because it's just a good feeling.
I love
Plus
that.
you get the food.
I love that too, and literally since the beginning of time, people have done that in other
Right.
other countries and
Right.
everywhere. But for me, especially heartwarming is to think about my people,
Right.
my ancestors. You know, that I can remember being in the garden with my mom and papa. Certainly, mama and daddy being, my whole life being with them, but that I can remember that, in that I really don't remember being with my big grandma. I can remember her. I remember being in her flower garden with her, but not working in the garden. I would have been too little to actually help do anything. But I love knowing that her and Benjamin, they also grew stuff in this holler.
Mm-hmm.
They also were part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I love thinking about the generations of our family that have grown stuff. And
Right.
today, Austin and Corey are working on a garden bed down there. So there's just one more generation. Is Corey growing stuff, which her and Katie have always helped us, but now that she's doing it, they're doing it fully on their own. That's really, really special.
She asked me this morning how what we was going to plant down there, and then what bit of that could be hers. And I said, you take whatever you want.
Yeah,
Baby.
take it all. Take
You
what you want.
You get what you want, and just mark it out and tell me what it is, and that way I won't plant in it, and that'll be yours.
Yeah.
She said, well, I don't want much. And I said, well, you get what you want, but you just let me know so I don't run and plant corn across the top of something you've already got plans to do.
That tickles me to death.
Yeah.
That she's interested in it. And Katie is too. Katie helps.
Oh, yeah.
Katie does. They both this year really want to. They've always helped, but it's different when you do it on your own. Like I always helped Mom and Daddy with the gardening and the processing and the putting up. But then when you're totally on your own doing it, it's different. Mm-hmm. And they both said they want to do more of the putting up, more of the canning stuff all on their own. So that's neat too.
Yeah.
Well, I've about worked you till supper time today, huh?
About it.
I guess you're ready to go in and get fed. I got to go in and cook it first, though.
I may ride down the hill and take that auger off that tractor and put my blade back on it, because I think after this weekend I'm going to be needing it to fix the driveway.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it's supposed to
It's
rain
supposed to
big
rain a lot, yeah.
and storm. I want to get that thing off there, because you can't, even if you ain't using it, you can't use the front end of it, because without that thing swinging back
on
there.
you, yeah. Yeah, that's probably a good idea to do that. Well, you do that, and I'll go in and fry up some deer meat, and I don't know what we'll have with it, something. Maybe we'll just have deer meat.
That'd be all right with me.
I'm just kidding. We'll have something.
You had me at deer meat.
Well,
That's all I need.
it's awful good.
Yeah.
We're going through it fast, but it's awful good. We always do go through it fast, though. It's awful good.
Maybe
though.
we'll get lucky and I'll hit one with a truck. We'll get some fresh meat.
I don't. Yeah, but what would it do to your truck?
Maybe
There's
we'll
so
get
many
even more
deer
lucky and it'll be Katie's truck.
In our area? Well, no, don't. Well, it might just, Katie's might just push it out of the road and keep going.
Yeah.
But we live in the area where there's so many deer that it's a regular occurrence to see them hit, which is sad. I don't like it for the deer or for the person that hit them, and it probably tore their car all to pieces. Well, we're always glad when you stop by to help us celebrate Appalachia.